Hello, everybody. My name is Coleman Watts, and I'm here to talk to you about conspiracy theories, which is I think, pretty relevant topic today. So, I run a YouTube channel called Think This Through, and I do videos that debunk things like conspiracy theories, or psychics, or grifters and cults, or just pseudoscientific nonsense. And I've been carving out this shtick for myself on YouTube for a couple of years and making some really fun videos, having some really fun engagement. The reason that I drove 10 hours to come here today to talk to you is because we really need to talk, like me and you. You know that one friend or coworker or classmate that you have? You're going to start knowing exactly who I'm talking about in a minute. You know the one who went kind of a little off the rails? Maybe you lost touch with this person and then they pop back up in your feed like years later and something seems a little bit off. So you're like, are you okay? And maybe you got like a little bit curious, maybe even a little bit nosy, and then they crossed the line big time. They made a post, which I have a copy of, and I'm going to show you right now. It's blurred out, just in case there's any children in the room. But you know which post I'm talking about, right? And then you were done. Like, you were done. Like, this is not happening. Raise your hand if you know who I'm talking about. If you have someone like that in your life, who used to be in your life. Hold on, keep those hands up. Look around you. Something is very wrong. Let's start there. This is not how it's supposed to be. Something is broken, and for me, I actually have several of these people. I could raise like 3 or 4, 5, I don't know, lots of hands. And I just want to tell a couple of quick stories. So you probably remember that in 2021 there was like a little slight disagreement about the outcome of the election, right? And on one hand you had the factual count of the votes, and on the other hand you had Donald Trump's feelings. And he was going through the stages of grief. And the first stage of grief, as we all know, is denial. The second great stage of grief is destroying democracy. And the third Reich, or the third stage of grief, let's just hope we don't get to the third Reich of grief. Okay, so those feelings were coming out in a few different ways, right? He was having some perfect phone calls. He was having press conferences in prestigious lawn and garden supply stores. And he was also having recounts. This is one that took place in Arizona by a company called Cyber Ninjas. They were looking for like bamboo fibers or something in the votes, if you were following the news. The CEO of that company is a guy named Doug Logan. And Doug Logan also happens to be my college roommate. Yes, there's Doug right there, and there's me looking very, very happy about the future of the world in that moment. I was like, wow, the next 20 years are going to be great, and me and Doug are going to get along just fine. So I lived with him in the same room for a year, and it never once occurred to me that the guy was going to try to destroy democracy. All I can say is that towards the end of that year, he joined an evangelical church, and I kind of disappeared off the map, and I sort of lost touch with him. But then he popped up again in the news. This is him with the same I didn't do my homework expression on his face, testifying in front of the Senate that he had when he was like going to class with me. All else I know, because I didn't hear from him personally, is just what I saw in the news, which is apparently Donald Trump didn't pay his contract, and he went bankrupt, which is a real shame.
Shocker.
I know. It's who could have seen that coming? So raise your hand again if you can think of someone in your life who has gone off the rails. Keep your hand up if you can think of 2 people. Raise 2 hands. Raise 3 hands if you can think of 3 people. Anyone? Okay, all right. Keep those hands really high if you tried to have a conversation with that person, right? And keep that hand up if that conversation went really well. Yeah, I think about what it would be like to talk to Doug now. This is us in senior year in college. And on the one hand, I think we'd have a lot of common ground, and still, Like, we were buds. We both shared the same nerdy sense of humor. He really loved The Princess Bride. I was mad about it. But don't hate me. On the other hand, there are certain things that we probably wouldn't be able to get past. Like, for example, he would probably consider my love of democracy to be, inspired by Satan. And I kind of have a disagreement about what he tried to do to our country. So we'd probably reach an impasse at some point. There have been others. There have been other people that I've tried to talk to. And anytime that I tried a direct approach with those people, like challenging their views or perspectives, even in a polite way, that conversation invariably ended in that person telling me to fuck off. Pretty much 100% of the time. At least I'm consistent. I've got a reproducible result, and that's important for science. But before that, I could have some good conversations. And so I've been reflecting on what are the good parts of those conversations. I can actually relate to a lot of things that conspiracy theorists believe because I used to be a believer. Here's a short list of all of the things that I believed in or was open to at various points in my life, and I'm sorry if that's too small. I can enlarge it for you. It looks like that. And I know how this makes me look. I don't really have a defense for it, except for maybe whataboutism, which I've heard is really effective. And there are actual rational adults who believe that truly any day now that something like this is going to happen. Like, they're waiting for this, and I'm not that crazy, at least. And yes, this is a clip from the latest South Park that just released a few days ago, and yes, we will get back to that. But taking a step back in time and trying to think about my own progression. When I was coming of age, I would probably categorize myself as an earnest, sincere person who wanted to do right in the world, who cared about the environment. Things like this really bothered me, and I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to get the knowledge from the great thinkers of the world, or at least what I could find. And I read books by people like Noam Chomsky or Howard Zinn or Michael Moore, Derek Jensen, Daniel Quinn. And this is like a little cross-section of some things that I was reading back then. And is this a collection of good ideas? Is this a collection of kooky ideas? I would say the answer is yes. And if you think about this, there's things in here that are vaguely conspiratorial. There's things in here that are about being mistrustful of corporations or the media or government. And some of those criticisms are very well justified, right? I was also a sort of a seeker, and I was looking for higher truths from psychics and gurus and channelers, and looking for spiritual solutions. And it turns out there's a book on spiritual solutions. But if you've actually ever read any of these books, they get kind of dark in places. Like, the government or big pharma is out to get these people, or it's out to cover it up, out to hide the truth from all of you. And so whether it was for legitimate criticisms or illegitimate wackadoodle criticisms, it all sort of pushed me in the direction of the rabbit hole. I don't know, I took a meditation class when I was younger, and from a group that turned out to be a cult. Who knew? I didn't know. I just took the class, and I didn't sign up for their extra bonus classes or go and sit at the feet of the guru or go to their compound or anything. But it turns out that looking back on my life, there's actually quite a nice long list of cults that I almost joined. And these are places that I could have been recruited to, or that tried to, that I was exploring. And if you think that makes me look crazy, you might want to just think about that group that you sort of got involved in or thought about getting involved in. I see some nods in the audience back in the day, and if you have any questions about them, maybe you should Google it. Seriously, after this talk, Google it. Were they a cult? Anyway, I would say that my former self was not exactly a conspiracy theorist. I was just open to the idea of conspiracy theories. And then something happened around the mid-2010s which was this new breed of anti-establishment rebels started storming this new online video sharing medium that was powered by an algorithm that shows you more of what you've already watched and drives you deeper down into rabbit holes. And so I was getting things in my feed by people like this big bald dummy, or this dude who used to be about science, or this guy who never was, or this weirdo, or this guy with the lobsters in his shirt. I don't know how his suit jacket doesn't get soggy, but somehow he manages it. Or this guy who's always screaming about gay frogs. And like, where in my life was like an Admiral Akbar to shout, "It's a crap"? Because I don't know about you, but I would say that this group here has its pros and cons, right? So, and by the way, cons is a shortened form of confidence, which is the con in con artistry. It's a confidence game. And so, but they were like presenting themselves in this way of like, facts don't care about your feelings, and you're committing logical fallacies if you disagree with us. It's always the woke left that's committing logical fallacies, right? And they were calling people that they disagree with SJWs, social justice warriors. And I was like, am I one of those? I care about the earth. Like, what? Maybe I need to reevaluate myself. And so yes, I can blame the YouTube algorithm for driving me towards exploring that stuff. But I also want to give some credit where it's due to some IRL friends. So 2 examples of people that I knew. These are not public figures, so I'm not going to reveal their names. I haven't seen them in the news yet. Hope I don't. I knew a woman who was a climate activist back in the day, and she was really good at it. She was like organizing big street festivals in her town all about like powering down and doing independent green energy, and like getting like the whole town involved, having these booths and big movies out in the thing, and it was really cool. And she also had obviously some legitimate criticisms of the government and the media for not doing enough. And this is perfectly good criticisms until it started to get a little bit more towards the conspiracy side of things, like how they were also poisoning us with chemtrails, right? Because you got to watch out for the chemtrails. And you also have to watch out for the fluoride in your water, because that might be there to control your mind. You never know. I lost touch with her for a long time. And last I heard from her, very recently, she was posting QAnon content. And also like militantly anti-vax stuff. And essentially anti-democracy stuff. How do you get from point A to point B? I knew another guy who was all into organic food, health, and wellness. He actually gave up his tech job to become a dairy farmer because he believed so strongly in the healing powers of raw milk. He wanted to drink raw milk every day, and that's what he did. I had some of it. It was delicious. I didn't get sick. I don't recommend that you try it. I got lucky. But he also believed that there was this like mainstream conspiracy against him, because obviously the FDA did not approve of what he was doing. And that took a downhill turn, because then there was like the big Agra and big Monsanto, and must be a cover up by the FDA and big pharma, and basically the whole government had to be involved in it, right? I recently heard from him, had some lengthy conversations about it, where he recommended that if I really wanted to understand the truth, I should read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Yeah, that's how far he went, like all the way to the anti-Semitic rock bottom of the conspiracy rabbit hole. One thing I learned from having that conversation with him, though, is that he truly believes that he's the good guy in the story. Nobody thinks of themselves as evil or bad. Like, he truly believes that he is just calling out the evil that other people are doing, right? So, this is personal for me on many different levels, and I know that it is for you too, because of all of you that raised your hands. And so let's take a step back and look at this from a macro level. The social forces, the personal relationships that we have, and the social media algorithms sort of form this sick synergy together, where if a person in real life recommends some content to you and you watch it, the social media algorithm picks up on the fact that you watched it, whether you liked it or not, and it's going to be sure to show you more of that content in your feed in the future. And just move the Overton window in your own mind, and also as a whole country, as we've seen. This is how people go from concerns about global warming to concern and acid rain to concerns about chemicals and chemtrails turning the frogs gay. You just have to ask yourself, how did this go so horribly wrong? Well, one answer is something called the horseshoe effect. The idea is that the political spectrum is not a line from left to right, but it can bend around the edges because the extremes of one have so much in common with the extremes in the other, less so than they do with the middle. So if you believe in, let's see, you start off having a concern about global warming, and that can turn you into an environmentalist, as it should. Then you get into organic food, and then maybe like starting with the natural remedies, and then you've got this like general fear of toxins, and maybe I need to do a detox cleanse or something, and maybe I need to worry about chemtrails too. And that means that the government might be controlling the weather, right? And now you're like off the map of like reality. And now you've moved all the way around to global warming is a hoax, which is the opposite place where you started, and now you find yourself aligning yourself with the opposite end of the political spectrum from where you started. That's just an example of how this can work. And this process that I'm seeing, at least, is accelerating. Like, take people like this guy. His brain is basically like the intersection of the horseshoe. It's like a lightning bolt between those two ends of the horseshoe, or going right in between his ears. And he's dragging millions of people with him to the other side of the political aisle through his movement called Maha, which sounds really sinister when you say it out loud like that, like Maha. So I made a video about him, and here's a link to it, and you could check out my little analysis of where he went off the rails and what just happened to him. Let's talk about a few other public figures. Here's a guy named Russell Brand. And I'm not going to say that he went crazy. I think that he was always that way. But he was just crazy in a different way. If you dig into his history, he started off trying to influence people in a very leftist fashion. Like, he was also in spiritual way. So he was teaching meditation on his early videos, and he was slamming institutions like Fox News. And if you look at him now, it's like, really? Where did that person go? Because he's now like ranting on his podcast about deep state QAnon conspiracies and, you know, pumping up MAGA, and also he might be a sex offender. I don't know. Like, this just, you know, stay away from that guy. Here's another example of a public figure. You might have seen these videos by a guy named J.P. Sears years ago. I see a few nodding heads. Yeah, he was making fun of the New Age spirituality about 10 years ago, making some really funny content. I watched it, I liked it. You know, making fun of yoga people and making fun of fad diets and things like that. It was great. And he was also pretty liberal in his leanings. He was, you know, pro-gun control and all of that. Not anymore. No. He's now posting a lot of deep state conspiracy content, MAGA content, super right-wing stuff. He's, you know, big Trump supporter. You got to ask yourself, what is going on? What is this trend, if you want to call it that? I actually did a deep dive into him. This is my thumbnail of my video from JP, and I put the word wokerer on his shirt because he used to embrace woke, and now he's like beyond woke. He's like wokerer. I ended up being a two-part series because it just went on, and you can check it out right there. He started off as a holistic life coach, and the institute that he went to taught about things like homeopathy, spiritual healing, you know, all of the Reiki and all of that stuff, and his mentor there was very anti-vax, right? Because vaccines are chemicals, and chemicals are bad. We are not made of chemicals. Don't think about that. So in 2020 is where I think that the train wreck really went off the rails. I mean, it was already, the engine was already on fire, but I think that it really, like, that bend came in 2020, and he suddenly found that all of his political allies were on the right, because Trump didn't like vaccines, because they were inconvenient for him politically at the time. I don't think he really had a thoughtful position on it, but at the time, you know, they made him look bad, so he didn't like them. And the whole right wing went in that direction, well, most of it. And JP found, wow, it used to be that I had all these allies on the left with my, you know, health and wellness and anti-vax stuff. Not anymore. In the process of doing that deep dive history into him, I discovered one of his early videos. I mentioned that he studied like holistic healing originally. So he didn't even start off as a comedian. This is the funny thing, like he didn't start off by making fun of the wellness industry and holistic healing. He started off by doing those things that he then ended up satirizing. Here's a really early video from him. He's talking here about a book, and he believes that the book may have been written by a spirit.
And until he died, he refused to allow his name to be attached to the book because he says, from his point of view, he channeled the book. He said, I didn't write it. I was the hand that recorded the book, but he said the book wasn't by me. I'm not willing to take credit for it. If nothing else, it makes a great story. Maybe true, maybe false, or maybe somewhere in the middle.
Maybe somewhere in the middle. You never know. Like, maybe true, maybe false. It makes a great story. This is what he said early on, before the grift, before the other grift, and then the final grift. Like, this is where his mindset comes from. This one spiritual teaching that I received from him blew my mind. I mean, this really opened my chakras. This really opened my world to the idea of what it takes to win the grift game. If you're going to hold contradictory beliefs, like maybe chemtrails are real, maybe they're not, maybe there's lizard people running the government, who knows? Maybe the pyramids were built by aliens, I don't know, maybe there's a deep state running the whole world, maybe the earth is flat, maybe it's not, maybe it's sort of flat, maybe it's somewhere in the middle, who knows? The point is, it doesn't matter, because what does matter is content that's trending, that's getting clicks and likes and shares and monetized. That's what matters. As long as you put those ideas out, those are the ones that really get you traction. And this is my conception of today's social media landscape. I structured it as a pyramid, coincidentally the same structure as pyramid schemes and cults. Because if you think about who rises to the top of social media, well, there's two things that are required. One is sheer volume. You need to, in both senses of the word, you need to be loud and you need to be prolific with your ability to spew as much bullshit as possible. See, I'm one of those people that when I run out of things to say, I stop talking. At the end of this presentation, I'll be done, unless you have a question for me. But there's a certain breed of human that doesn't do that. Their mouth keeps running way after their brain runs out of ideas. And they are stars on social media. The other thing, I said there were two, that gets you up to the top of that pyramid is the ability to grab people's attention, obviously. And that requires you to hook into their emotions. You need to be able to shock them or relate to them or do something else that really triggers their emotions. And that is what gets you the dollars. Now, obviously, what falls to the bottom is stuff that doesn't matter so much, like science and logic and facts and journalism or nuance, complexity. That stuff doesn't get the clicks and likes and shares, folks. It's just, forget about that. This is a process of evolution. It's artificial selection. We're evolving our conversation in this way through this selection process. And if you think about it, this isn't a totally new phenomenon. I'm not going to pin all of this on social media. I mean, in the past, you've had people like L. Ron Hubbard, who started a whole religion, a whole fake religion to dodge taxes and make lots of money. And you also had people like Jim Jones, who I hear made a killing. I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. You can walk out, it's fine. Okay. The problem that these guys faced is that they didn't have the infrastructure already built for them. They were fighting against the system. They weren't just working within the system. Today, if you want to start your own cult, you don't need to build anything. It's already built for you. So you might wonder, were there fewer of those types of people in the world before, or was I just hearing less from them? And I think the answer is probably both, because the traits that lead us to these let's call them sociopathic behaviors, lie dormant within all of us. And there's psychology experiments that show that they can come out given the right incentives. Well, social media is those incentives. You've got a mad scramble up the ladder, and you're also looking down the ladder and trying to sell courses to other people, telling them how they can make money instantly and gain fame and wealth and success. Everybody wants followers. By the way, you can subscribe to my channel. It's right here. It's called Think This Through Online. Subscribe or the world will end. Trust me. So we all crave attention. We all crave to be in the spotlight. We all crave to be holding the clicker of power. So enough about them, let's talk about me. So I was headed down a dark path, and I didn't know how dark it was. I couldn't see the tunnel. When you're in a pipeline, you can't see where it's going because it's dark inside a pipe. And but for fortune, I could have gone with my dairy farmer buddy. Like, it could have been me. So you might be wondering what saved me. I wonder that myself sometimes. The best answer I can come up with at the moment is, one, I had relationships that were not just pushing me down, but I also had people in my life that would have been very skeptical of these things. That's a nice way of saying that they thought that they were crap. And that would have created in me a cognitive dissonance, because I either had to believe that these people were evil or recognize their humanity for what I had always known, like throughout my entire life. The whole demonization game that's being played right now, it only works if you don't know the people that are being demonized. The other thing I would say is the very logic of the conspiracy theories themselves, put it in air quotes, the intellectual dark web presents itself as being intellectual. Facts don't care about your feelings. We're all about the facts and logic, bro. And I felt intimidated when I first saw that online. I felt like I had to catch up with like the level that these guys were on, so I did. I actually learned about logical fallacies, and I actually did my own research, and I actually questioned the narrative, and I actually followed the money. And guess where it led me to? This presentation I'm giving right now. So, I was out, and I would say that I was one of the lucky ones, and it was a very disorienting experience, by the way, and it led me to do a lot of research into undue influence and cults and coercive control, and like how do people get, quote unquote brainwashed, because it's not a magic thing that happens, it's a process of influence. And I discovered lots of great resources out there. One is by a video by a guy named Drew McCoy, who introduced me to Dr. Stephen Hassan, who has written a whole book about something that he calls the BITE model, which is behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. Highly recommend you look into this if you're not familiar with it, because there's elements of all of that in the parasocial relationships that are leading people down rabbit holes today. So, after a lot of hemming and hawing and second guessing, I went ahead and put myself out there and said, I have something to say about this, and maybe I can help other people that are embroiled in this sort of thing. And so, I made a video.
And you know what that means.
What does that mean?
It means buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
That's what it means. Anyway.
Whoa! A rabbit hole! Help! Help! Dorothy! Kansas is going bye-bye!
Okay, you get the idea. So this was my very first video, my very first little launch onto YouTube of saying, this is what it feels like to get sucked into a rabbit hole. And here's a little etymology of the red pill and why people are using this metaphor and what it means to conspiracy theorists. And so that began my channel, Think This Through, which is all about debunking cons, cults, and conspiracies. And yes, I do like alliteration. And yes, I'm participating in the attention economy. But hey, we can't cede it all to the grifters. As the social media panel was saying yesterday, you have to put yourself out there. We need to flood the zone too. We need to put out good information. We have to put out things that are actually helpful to people, which is a little bit more work than just bullshitting your way through a 4-hour podcast on Joe Rogan, but it's worth it. And so one thing that I like to do is I like to parody and lampoon grifters that are at the top of the pyramid. I don't go after people that are in the middle or the bottom at the base of the pyramid because I'm trying to help them to see what's happening to them. In one of my latest videos, I don't have time to play a clip of it, but it's about a cult, of course, a cult called Twin Flames Universe, which you may have heard of because there was a Netflix documentary about it and also a documentary on Amazon. The people who run this alleged cult, you can't, like, if I was trying to make a parody of what cult leaders would look like, they would look like this. I mean, this is them. This is them, like, showing off how much wealth they have to their followers and saying, you can have this too, except the way that, of course, they got all of this is by grifting it off of their followers and getting them to give them this money. So how are their followers supposed to do that? And you're supposed to, like, look at them and say, wow, they have it all. And you can too if you just, follow our teachings that will teach you how to find your one true romantic partner, your twin flame. But of course, they didn't do any of that work to get where they are. They just found each other online and hooked up. So they actually released a statement recently saying, we are not a cult because we do not have a compound. You don't need a compound to be a cult. Compounds, if you haven't ever tried it, they're a lot of upkeep. It's a lot of work to have a compound. And social media has built a structure for you that it makes it totally obsolete. Today's cults are online. The guy's name is Jeff. Divine. They've changed their last name to Divine because they're gods. He makes very self-help content. He made a video very recently about how to make more money, and the entire video is just him showing off his watch collection. That's it. That's the whole video. This is how you can make more money. Look at how much I have. Look at my watches. And so I have a Patreon, and you can sign up for it and give me money. I make tens of dollars a month on all of this. I'm really rolling compared to, God damn it, Jeff. Guys, I'm in the wrong line of work. I feel like hold on. I have a better idea. Forget everything that you've just heard here. Just okay, that's better. Oh yeah. Hello! I am your guru, Coleman the Magnificent, the Divine, your God. You may bow now. Like, subscribe, and follow. I am here to teach you about my system called Successful Human Achievement Realignment Technology. Who's ready for some shart? Oh yeah! Oh yeah, like, subscribe, and follow. Right now we are going to do a guided meditation that is going to teach you all of the secrets of the divine universe. I want you all to close your eyes. Seriously. And I want you to focus right now on what you want in your life. What you do not have enough of. Is it your health? Is it your success? Is it love? Is it confidence? Is it intelligence? Is it height? Would you like to be taller? I can teach you how. Oh yes. I can even teach you the secrets of fabulous wealth. That's actually where you come in. Now you may open your eyes to gaze upon my face. I want you to now think about only what you don't have. Forget about all of the wonderful things that you do have in your life. Just focus on what you don't have, because I want you, truly, I want you to be miserable all the time so that you can come back to my content and receive healing. I have created something which I call a business scheme. It is a pyramid of success. And better yet, let's structure it as a church, because what is a church other than a business that doesn't pay taxes? I'm feeling very religious now. And you can all work for me and be unpaid employees. You can be actually a coach, a certified coach. I can certify you to make me money. Yes. Except that experts now are saying that this is not scientific. And the media is saying that my business is a scam. But this can only mean one thing. It's a conspiracy. They're conspiring against me. They don't want you to success. It's all part of a cover-up. It's a conspiracy. Thank you. Thank you. I try. I work for tips. So, in the few minutes that we have left, we're going to solve all of those problems. Yes, this is what we're up against. We're up against a lot, folks. But I do have a piece of good news for you. The good news is they all fall at some point. Alex Jones lost basically his entire empire to a lawsuit by the Sandy Hook families. I'm not sure that Sandy Hook was the worst thing that he's ever done, honestly. I mean, it's a long list. But that was the one that he got him taken down. And I said we would come back to this. So here we have Trump not doing so well right now with his base. He's having some problems with a conspiracy theory that he promoted. They all fall because they're spewing so much bullshit all the time that they can't keep up with it, and it comes back to bite them in the ass. That's the good news, that their empires will always fall apart. The bad news is that they're going to pop back up, like zombies, and just keep on grifting what little base they have left and trying to start over. The other bad news is that somebody else is always going to come in and take their place. But there are things that we can do, and I think that this moment right now is such an important one for us to seize on. And because they always fall apart, there are always moments like this. Sometimes they don't come often enough. They're very satisfying when they do. I really enjoyed watching The Truth versus Alex Jones on Netflix. It's just such a satisfying feeling to watch them have to face what they've done. So in these moments, in moments like this, when the whole MAGA base is questioning Donald Trump's integrity, I'll take it. We can help educate people. We can help spread, let's call it, truth. Because here's the thing, here's why you have to act fast when there's moments like this. After this conference, I want you to all go out and reach out to somebody about this, because it's been pretty well established, this phenomenon. One, it's called cult hopping, which is where if somebody escapes from a cult, they are more likely to join another cult. If somebody escapes from an abusive religion, they're going to probably join another religion. If somebody gets scammed, they are more likely to get scammed again. This is why scammers keep lists of fish and whales that they can keep on taking advantage of. We have to break that cycle. You don't want someone to just move on from Alex Jones to Andrew Tate. That's not a step up. That's not a positive thing. What can help? Well, teaching somebody, sharing a message of you don't want to be a mark. You don't want to be lied to again. Here's some critical thinking skills that can help. And so spreading that to whoever can hear it is great. Offering to help somebody if they're feeling some doubts and saying, if you didn't like getting scammed this time, here's some tools that can help you to not get scammed again. Critical thinking skills, learning about science, history, logic, whatever your specialty is that you can offer them, to offer a way out of this cycle. But we have to be humble about this, right? We all have to touch grass. Because for me, I'm standing up here telling you that I've fallen for this stuff before, and that's a very humbling experience. We all have our blind spots. We all commit fallacies. And learning about logical fallacies is not just a way to one-up somebody on the internet and win a debate on Facebook. Learning about logical fallacies is about improving our own thinking and our own reasoning. And I think that sharing that humility can also be very helpful. Ultimately, critical thinking is something that has to start in here. You can't impose it on anybody else. The hardest mind to change in the world is your own. And so I would also challenge you to think of something that you maybe just haven't really questioned, but have always had as received wisdom that you just kind of took for granted, like the power of a detox cleanse or the power of positive thinking or the unverifiable fact that the average person in the world swallows 16 spiders in their lifetime. Maybe you heard that was true at a summer camp one time and you never questioned it. Google it. Find out. Find out if that group that you were thinking of before really was a cult. And for your friend, for that person that you raised your hand about at the beginning of this, the best thing you can do is not to argue with them, not to give them more facts that they've already heard before. It's just to be there for them as somebody who's not going to shame them, who's not going to try to one-up them, but is just like, I'm here for you when you get out of this. If you have questions, I'm here for you. Like, I'm not here to judge. And to also show them that secular people are not the monsters that they've been taught, the stereotypes that they've been fed. We're just normal people. We're good people. And that you can have a good and happy life without a guru or a life coach or an online group that's, insular in its thinking. And if that person does ever admit that they were wrong, you don't have to say, I told you so. It may be the hardest thing to do is to change your own mind. Well, even harder than that is to be gracious with someone else when they change theirs. Thank you.